I'm going to talk about something really insane, and that is how to have a sense of humor. Now, Netflix hasn't called me this week. My phone's been off the hook. I just didn't want to talk to the big players. But many years ago, I had somebody come to me and they had as the request, I want you to teach me how to have a sense of humor. I was not sure if they were joking, but they said, when we're together, you're helping me, then you're making me laugh. You're helping me, then you're making me laugh. And believe me, I'm helping them most of the time. And I really have come to like food, especially since I've been out of jail. Rikers has terrible food. And Alcatraz never did, even when they had a great chef there that was imprisoned. But so I said, I've never had this request. And they said, but you do different things and challenging things, and you like to explore and discover. I'm like, well, that may be on my business card, but, I'm not Eddie Murphy. I'm not Don Rickles, which states that will help some people in their 70s and 80s. And the other maybe 30 top comics that I think are really great talents. But I did learn a few things. I want to give you a few thoughts. So the first thing is, if you have any depression, or if you have any pain, or you have an anxiety disorder, you need to get that fixed. Because as my treasured cousin, Michael Geib, said, you only tell a joke for yourself. Any jokes I make to a patient, I don't care if they laugh or don't laugh. I'm like, you didn't laugh. And the people that come to me, they're not laughing. They are when I'm done. So the first thing is, you can't be in a place where you're in pain, you're depressed, and we have a book, Destroying Depression, coming out at the end of January 2026. There's so many new innovative things. You don't know anybody that knows those things. You don't know 10 people that knows those things. So take a peek at that. And then anxiety. I think there was a time here and there where I had an excess amount of anxiety for different reasons. I'm not going to get into it. It's not important. But when I didn't fix that problem, I wasn't funny. I couldn't be funny. How can you be funny when, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, there are people that hate me right now. There are people that think I'm ugly as death. And there are others that, more sober ones that think I'm a magnificently handsome man. The point I'm getting at is you can't have anxiety and be funny. And also, you can't have poor sleep, and you can't mock a day off. You can't mock having rest. Humor as a trend, not always, because some people in pain do make jokes, but they joke and then they're like, So the aftertaste of it, they're not really happy. So you want to remove those things. First is your goal. Your goal is nothing. Your goal is absolutely nothing. If you do it just to let somebody know that they're smarter than you, they're less of a fool than you, you make them feel more adequate, both intellectually and otherwise, great. By the way, they did do a study on the intelligence of comics, and they tended to run around the genius level or up. They didn't have an IQ of 100, so unless you're into poopy humor and you're 5. What we did is I would watch a comic and I wouldn't watch them for my entertainment, or I may the first time. Then I'd go back and I'd watch them make a joke. I'd freeze it and ask myself, why was that funny? And I wasn't always sure. And I do it with each and every joke. And I think we found about 40 different components that may add to something being funny. And then I do it with another comic. Well, what they used, there was an overlap. So of the 40, 10 they shared, but there's others they did not share. So after about 10 of those, I started helping this person develop a sense of humor. And one of the first issues was they wanted to be funny in a gathering with some other witty adults. Well, tell me about them. They were too good at this. I said, look, you got to practice with people. You don't care what they do. Because for you to have the speed of these kind of people, you need to be having humor with people that you don't care what they do. So in this person's particular case, they like kids. They thought they had access to kids, and so they would start working at making kids laugh. Little kids, adolescent kids. If you're 30, 40, 50, whatever, a 15-year-old, I mean, you may respect them, and I certainly do my 13-year-old. I just treat her like she's a woman in terms of, access to knowledge and science and medicine and things for her health and nutraceuticals and you name it. And anything to involve with schooling. And she's like, oh my gosh, she's like treating me like, yeah, like you're going to be an adult real fast. So I'm treating you like an adult. So you remember, oh, when I went to punch him in the nose when I'm 19, hey, he was the one that first treated me like an adult. But that's who she trained with. And then the elderly that were not in pain, but were alone or a couple at a time. And she got faster and faster and faster. And then she was able to make a quip. But the thing is, sometimes people are thinking about their hemorrhoids, or they're thinking about they're not going to make it to the gas station because they've been a foghead and totally forgot about it. You say something funny, and they're not even, what? What'd you say? So, as again, my precious cousin, Michael Guy, who I really believe is innocent of all his charges. I really do. Nobody can do that many felonies in a week. But in any event, what he said to me that was brilliant was that the first joke is not meant to ever be funny. It's just to let people know that you have the potential to try and make a joke. And he said, I tend to expect people to start realizing I'm making jokes and maybe to acknowledge the third one. Well, there are exceptions, and they're amazing exceptions. But many comics, they don't let you breathe. They make a joke, they may pause, they make a joke, they may pause, and they may go for the water if they already have the audience kind of a bit interested, but they're okay with silence. They don't need to, but they also don't expect a reaction and like, oh, you didn't laugh at my joke. Well, that was very disheartening. No, they've got a whole routine and they make pauses. So you can think about it. You can catch up to them. The thing they invented 9 months ago, you can catch up to how freaking brilliant that thing just was. So what I would say is, if you want to develop a sense of humor, 1, address those things I said in the beginning. 2, never tell a joke for others. Tell it for yourself. If they notice, great. They don't notice, whatever. Your heart's still beating. It's still beating. Trust me. I'm a doctor. And then also practice with people that don't intimidate you so you can get a certain fluidity to you. Years ago, I was a very young guy, and like most fetuses, I was very afraid of dancing. Well, then I made friends with somebody who could dance, and I said, you know what? I am totally paralyzed. And I said, could you teach me what you know? And she did. And I made friends with a different friend, and I said, could you teach me what you know? And she did. And I kept saying, look, if you need a partner, I'd love to be your partner. Just show me what you know, and we'll have a good time. And then it got to the point that I could really dance so fast that I couldn't keep dancing like that for a long period of time, because it's basically like a boxing match, only faster. Not saying I have more VO2 capacity than like top boxers. I'm just telling you, it was an incredible workout. What's my point? I went from frozen, terrified, to being, let's just go wild. And I won't tell you the level we got to, but I did choreograph something in higher education. It wasn't UCLA or a major university with 50,000 people, but it got reviewed well. And I guess my point with that isn't that's really important, but just to show when you go from freezing and terror to choreographing a play in your a higher education school, that's progress. It's the exact same thing with humor. So, and then also watch comedians, but if you want to learn from them, you can't just watch them and rewatch them. You got to watch them and then freeze it and then think about how they set that up. What was their look? What was the speed of how they said that? Was there a pause? Were they referring back to something they said funny 20 minutes earlier? I call that the refer back. And you will start finding, like any sport or any language you take up, as you study it, it's not that it's like learning algebra. It will be fun, but the fun part, albeit, is after you've taken all these tennis lessons or pickleball lessons or golf lessons or basketball lessons or whatever it is you're into, or Spanish lessons, that you can do it. And you did a good job, and you played a good game, and you beat the older guy that was crushing you at tennis and mocking you about it. Now, actually, the guy that used to crush me was like 35 years older than me. He never busted me about it, but I was busting myself. I'm like, you're in a wheelchair. I'm just joking. So what I would do is watch the masters, and they will teach you. If you watch them freeze, and let your practice people be those that need your love, need your attention, need your interest, and your empathy will make you forget about yourself. And then you're giving humor as a gift. My personal feeling is, together with a paycheck for it, that's the best there is. Empathy with humor as a gift. Good night, guys. Take care. Welcome from Florida, where it's a horrible 70 degrees and there's a lovely beach without contaminants on it. All right. Take care, gang. Bye-bye.